Alright guys, we are back with more NBA player props for today, Sunday, February 8th, Super Bowl Sunday, but we're betting on basketball. Let's get right into it. Alright, before we get into our picks for today, we're going to do a little recap of yesterday's picks. Now we had 3 picks, and as you can see here, we went 2-1, and we are currently 15-4 on our NBA write-up plays, which are all posted at x.com/budfordsbets. Now let's talk about these picks. Let's start with the loser here, Michael Porter Jr., over 24.5 points. Now really, this one should have been easy. He had a great matchup against the Wizards, right? They're tanking, and they might be tanking a little too much if we're being honest. MPJ, he came out, he got 20 points on 7 of 10 shooting in the first half. And then, second half, with the blowout, guys weren't trying as much. He didn't play as many minutes as he normally would. And he only made 1 of 6 shots in the second half, and it was a 3 in the last 30 seconds of the game. So he ends at 23 points, just 1 basket short of cashing us. It is what it is. And, with the blowouts nowadays and all the tanking, this kind of stuff happens, and, it's just a risk you take when picking these games. But our other 2 picks were really good. Spot on reads, and they cash very easily. Let's start with Anthony Black, over 16.5 points. Like I mentioned, with Franz Wagner out, Paolo Banchero, he's getting doubled a lot. Anthony Black, he's sitting in the corner, shooting his threes, and really, he didn't even have a good night shooting threes. I think he only made 1 of them. But, like I mentioned, Tyus Jones is no longer on the Magic, so their depth chart, especially in the backcourt, is very barren, which means Anthony Black was getting lots of minutes. He was on the court for most of the game. I think he had the team high in field goals attempted, and it wasn't even an efficient night scoring, but because of the volume, because of the minutes, and the time on the court, he goes over easily. Now let's talk about LaMelo Ball, over 7.5 assists. This was another easy one. He had 5 assists in the first half. This was a great matchup as well against the Atlanta Hawks. Very fast-paced team. And, it was just another easy one. He had 8 assists in 3 quarters. Alright, and with that said, that brings us to a 2-1 day. It's a profitable day. That's all you can ask for. Really should have been a 3-0. We made solid reads. Good matchups. Players mostly performed well. And that brings us to a 15-4 run on NBA write-ups, which are all posted, like I said, on X, or Twitter if you still like to call it that. Without further ado, let's get into our 2 picks for today. Alright, so for our first pick today, we are looking at Scotty Barnes against the Indiana Pacers, and I'm taking him over 14.5 rebounds plus assists. Now, let's take a look at the injuries here for Toronto. Not listed on here is Emmanuel Quickly, who actually just sprained his ankle today at practice, or yesterday at practice, Saturday's practice. And so he's currently questionable with this sprained ankle. And, maybe he plays, but I'm not sure he's going to, because their next game is actually Wednesday against the Pistons. That's a much tougher matchup than here against the Pacers. So I imagine, being that it's such a fresh injury, they give him the day off, let him rest up, and get ready for that big game against the Pistons. We also have some new wrinkles in the front court with Jakob Poeltl. He's questionable to come back. If he does, he'd be on a heavier minutes restriction, right? And then we have Trace Jackson Davis. He's about to make his debut for the Raptors. As could possibly eat into Scotty Barnes' rebounds. And also with the quickly questionable, ankle injury. That's why I decided to take the combo line here, although I do like both the rebounds and the assists on their own. Just with all that stuff up in the air, I'm going to go with the combo line. Matchup-wise, take a look here at the Indiana Pacers. They are bottom 10 in rebounding, and they've been awful. Big guys have been crushing them all year on the glass. They just traded for Zubats, but he is not playing today, so this should be a matchup in Scotty Barnes. He can do well on the glass. Now let's take a look down here. We got Scotty Barnes. He averages 13.7 rebound chances a game, 8.3 rebounds. Obviously, you go down the list. He is pretty much number 1 on the team because Jakob Poeltl has not been playing. And then you go down, you get Sandro and Murray Boyles. They're both right around 10, 11. But other than that, that's, you got a lot of big wings on this team, right? You got Ingram, you got Baird. They get on glass too. And then we go to the assist potentials. With Quickly out, see, this is 10 potential assists with Quickly out. And, Barnes averages 10 with him in, and then there's another 10, 11 up for grabs once he's out. We go back up here, take a look at the numbers. He's only played 3 games on the season without Quickly. But look we'll go to the assists. Look what happens to his assist numbers. He gets 10 potential assists in this one, 16, 17. So that's really good, right? And so you take a look at the recent games for Scotty Barnes here. His last 10, he's averaging 15 rebounds and assists. You see here, he's up over double digits in every single game. The lowest he's going here is 12. And, this was a 17-point blowout. Then, you're getting 12, 18, 15, then 19, 15, 14, 13. So, in a good matchup, you can very easily pick up 2 or 3 more rebounds and assists. Now let's take a look at his head-to-head numbers against the Pacers. And this is a matchup he has absolutely crushed in the past. I mean, look at this. You got 20, 14, 17, 15, 24, and 16. That's in his last 6 games. He's averaging 17.7 rebounds and assists. This is a matchup he should dominate, and he has in the past. I'm going to go with him again today as over 14.5 rebounds assists for Scotty Barnes. Alright, our second play, we're going over to Rudy Gobert against the Los Angeles Clippers, and I'm taking him over 11.5 rebounds. Now, this is pretty much the other side of the coin with the Zubats trade, right? The Clippers just traded Zubats, and now they have no interior presence. It's old man Brook Lopez, right? This is Brook Lopez, Nicholas Batum, John Collins. This is a matchup that Gobert really should dominate on the glass here, provided it's a relatively competitive game. It's an 8.5 point spread. The new guys for the Clippers, they're still not playing. It's Mathurin and Garland, so possibly a blowout. Let's look at the hit rate. He's 57% on the season, and you go to wins, he's over in 68%. Really good numbers. Now, let's go to the turn of the new year, so January 1st. Since then, he's over an 11 out of 17. That's 65%. Very good as well. In the event of a blowout, let's take a look at the margin. And so wins of 10 plus, he's over an 11 out of 18. Also very good. So, a blowout isn't necessarily the end of the world, right? In the event of a blowout, obviously the other team has got to be missing a lot of shots. And what does that mean for Gobert? That means more potential rebounds. See, 25, 22, 21. You got 30 in this one, 26. So, this all adds more chances for him to get on the glass and grab some rebounds. So we crank the rebound chances up to 20, and he's over in 16 out of 18 games this season, averaging 13.8 rebounds. That's an 89% hit rate. Now, with Zubats gone, it's been 2 games, right? Because they sat him the game before they traded him. And both centers in these 2 matchups went over 10 rebounds. Jared Allen, he picked up 11. And Dylan Cardwell came off the bench, and he grabbed 14 as well. So that's back-to-back games where the Clippers have really struggled preventing these big men from getting active on the glass. Now you can see here, Gobert averages 19.9 rebound chances a game. His season average for rebounds is 11.4. So obviously in a good matchup, he can go over this by a lot. Now I do actually also like him to go for a double-double here. Early it was plus 150 on FanDuel. I think it's come down a little. But as you can see here, again, since the start of the new year, he's over in 11 out of 17, 65%. And, with the amount of rebounds I expect him to get, there should be a lot of putback opportunities. When Gobert is getting his putback opportunities, he can get a double-double easily. I think the one thing with him is he's kind of iffy from the free throw line, so free throw miss here or there and he might go under. But I do like the double-double as well. And another interesting non-statistical wrinkle in this one is that after their loss against the Pelicans the other day, Rudy Gobert came out and he basically called out his teammates and the coaching staff a little, for his teammates for a lack of effort, and the coaching staff for not holding people accountable. And as the leader on the team, right, you expect Gobert to continue to bring the effort, and that bodes well for us hitting the rebounds, right? Because that's where he makes his money. And it's not like he wasn't already rebounding. Already, you see, 5 games in a row he's hit double-digit rebounds. He's on 11, 16, 10, 12, 16. He's averaging over 20 rebound chances a game. So I mean, if he needs extra motivation, this whole thing with calling out his teammates and being a leader and all that, that'll give it to him. Frankly, they just need to get up for these matchups. The Timberwolves, they tend to play down to their competition. You see them losing to the Pelicans. And, this is a Clippers team that really shouldn't be on their level. And so maybe they're going to come out with a little more. And with a great matchup and a little extra motivation, I like Rudy Gobert to go over 11.5 rebounds. Alright guys, that'll wrap it up for today's video for Sunday, February 8th. My 2 picks for today are Scotty Barnes over 14.5 rebounds and assists, and Rudy Gobert over 11.5 rebounds. Now if you want to get these plays every morning in written form, you can follow me at x.com/budfordsbets, and we will be back with more plays tomorrow.